With the recent announcement of the latest ZV-E1, I figured I'd do a buying guide comparison against the a7C. Both are compact full-frame mirrorless cameras and both are excellent hybrid tools for photos and videos. However, there are many little things that each cameras have that can ultimately sway the decision of potential buyers. So in this video, we'll highlight their biggest differences to see which one is right for you. We'll start off with the verdict from the general camera community first. If you're more interested in photography with light video work, the a7C hands down is the path to walk on. It's capable of 24 megapixel photos over the 12 megapixel that the E1 has. More megapixel means more flexibility. You have more wiggle room if you frequently crop your photos, and you have more pixels to sample off of when you do heavy photo editing or photoshopping. The a7C has mechanical and electronic shutter, whereas the E1 has just electronic. So if you photograph somewhere with lots of LED lights, like concerts, you will run into issues with banding in your images when you shoot with electronic shutter. You won't have that issue with mechanical. On the other spectrum, if you're more interested in video with light photo work, then the ZV-E1 is the way to go. Both cameras can shoot 4K, but the E1 can shoot up to 4K 60 frames per second, and likely 4K 120 frames per second in the future, and that alone puts it ahead of the a7C. In addition to that, it's capable of filming 10-bit 422, which means you have more color pixels to work with if you plan on doing a lot of color grading to your footage. Now, despite being a 12 megapixel sensor, the low-light performance is actually way better on the E1. Because the size of the pixels are larger, therefore we see less noise and grain in our footage and photos. Now, that's just the surface level. Like I said, it goes beyond that. Just because one has a slight edge with a certain technical spec doesn't necessarily mean you need them. So the first thing I want to highlight is the ease of use. If you're someone who's new to the dedicated camera world, you're used to shooting on your smartphone, then the E1 is actually more user-friendly for both photos and videos. For one, you can interact with the screen UI by touch, and most of what you need are already on the screen. You can swipe on the left, right side, or the bottom of the screen to bring up a platter of options. And out of the box, it's already shooting in intelligent auto mode, and clicking on the sparkles here in the corner allow you to adjust your image settings: focus, brightness, colors, and filter profiles. So it makes it really easy for you if you want a blurrier background or a brighter image without needing to know all the technical know-hows of a camera. Now, because this is a ZV camera, we have those two helpful buttons right here. We have the background defocus, which if I press it, will automatically help blur the background or get the entire background to focus. And two, the product showcase right here deactivates face autofocus, so you can show your product without the camera focusing on your face too much. As you can see right here with my a7 IV, I have the eye autofocus going on right now, but it will still focus on me despite the camera being in front of it. I would have to literally just hide my face in order for the camera to focus on this other camera right here. However, the odd quirk with product showcase is that you can only toggle it on and off when you're not recording. When you're recording, it would not disable it or enable it if you wanted to, which is a very weird quirk to me. It should be able to do it in recording as well. The E1 is also rocking Sony's modern menu system. It's more organized and color-coded, making it easier to find certain settings. Ergonomics. The E1 is the smallest and lightest, but the weight between the cameras aren't much. 483 grams versus 506 grams. The a7C does feel a bit denser though. Grip-wise, they are shaped a little differently, and despite the E1 being a micrometer smaller, the grip actually feels a bit more full to hold. They both share the same inputs and outputs. I won't go over them one by one, but it's on the screen. Both uses the Sony Z battery, so plenty of juice, and they each come with one battery but no charger. The battery doors on both cameras do not come off, but there is a small tab for a dummy battery cable to pass through if you want to use either of these as webcams for streaming. Although not really necessary, as both do support USB-C power delivery charging. By the way, the E1 does have better native support for webcamming, up to 4K 30 frames per second. Built-in mic though, the E1 does have a slight advantage since it is more of a video-centric camera. The bigger grille here allows for better voice capturing from the front, rear, and all around. Now, one of the new features of this camera is that when it detects a face in front of the camera, the mic directivity switches to the front. But if I walk away...
Oh, hi, it's Vivian. Jason walked away, so I'm gonna be talking from the rear.
And now I'm back. The face autofocus should be kicking in, and I'm talking right now, so I should switch to the front directivity. However, nothing beats a dedicated mic. The hot shoe on top of both cameras here are multi-interface tech equipped, so they can use all the recent Sony digital mics without the need of a 3.5mm cable. In terms of customizability, more shortcuts can be programmed on the E1 since it can utilize the on-screen touch UI, freeing up all the physical buttons to be reprogrammed to something else. LCD screen. Both are flip-out style screen, perfect for selfie vlogging and vertical filming. But the quality of the screen is much better on the E1. It has a resolution of 1,036,800 dots versus the 921,600 dots from the A7C. Especially when you're using the cameras outdoor on a bright sunny day, you can make both monitors brighter with the sunny weather option. However, the colors on the A7C screen in sunny weather mode become incredibly contrasty, making it hard to gauge what your photos and videos really look like, whereas the E1 screen looks way more accurate. But when it's really bright outside, both monitors do not have enough nits to combat that. That's where the A7C's electronic viewfinder comes in handy. You can peek through, block out a lot of the external light, and get a way better view of your image. Moving on to sensor. Both are full frame sensors, but again, the A7C has double the megapixel count over the E1. We already established that in the beginning that the higher megapixel count is preferable for photography. With that said, the E1 can still take great photos. But one great advantage of the A7C is when you use APS-C lenses, you can shoot in APS-C Super 35 mode and still get roughly 10 megapixel. Not bad, but especially when you're shooting videos, there is no visual quality drop. So if you're upgrading from an older A6000 camera, you can still use your previous APS-C lenses or save some money and buy APS-C glass. Moving on to low light performance. We briefly talked about how much better the low light performance is on the E1, so now we're going to show you the difference. For the most part, the A7C kept up fairly well. In fact, at the earlier ISOs, it looks sharper because it has the 6K sensor downsampling to 4K. And right around the 12,800 mark, there was a noticeable loss in sharpness with the A7C before completely dropping out the race at 102,400. ZV-E1, as we suspected, kept up neck and neck with the A7S III. Even the noise and grain at their max ISO of 409,600 seemed identical. With that said, if you don't often shoot in low light, it won't make a big difference to you. Video quality. Because of the higher megapixel count in the A7C, the 4K actually looks crisper, and that's because it has a 6K sensor and it's shooting all of that information in a 4K resolution. On top of that, you can use APS-C lenses in 4K as well. With the E1, you technically cannot shoot in APS-C Super 35 mode in 4K. However, there is a well-known hack with clear image zoom in which it can zoom out of the vignetting. Now, the issue with this hack with some of the previous iterations of Sony cameras was you would lose a lot of autofocus features like specific focus boxes and focus tracking. However, the E1 miraculously retains all of those autofocus features. So rest easy, you can use APS-C lenses with the E1 and retain all of the autofocus features. The E1 also has more bitrate options, 8-bit and 10-bit, whereas the A7C is limited to 8-bit 420 only. And the E1 also has more video formats. You can shoot in H.264 and H.265, or even 600 megabits per second SI, which is the highest quality possible. But do note that you will need to invest in a really good SD card for 600 megabits SI 10-bit 422 4K recording. But for the most part, XAVC HS 10-bit 420 is a nice middle ground for 4K videos. But with all that talk of 4K though, does 4K really matter? If you're a creator and you're creating content for mobile devices, 1080p is usually enough. Both cameras are capable of 1080p up to 120 frames per second. But with the A7C having the lower price, you could use the money you saved and invest in a really good lens. 1080p files also take up less space and generally are much easier for machines and phones to edit. And don't forget, the A7C can shoot 4K up to 30 frames per second as well if you decide to film 4K someday. However, 4K 60p will future-proof you, so if you enjoy 4K 60p content and you want to make 4K 60p content, then the E1 is a great investment for the next 5+ years. Earlier we talked about bitrate, so does having 10-bit 422 really matter? First off, if you've never heard of 10-bit 422 before, you probably don't need it. At least not now. But if you plan on color grading your videos and you're going to be editing on a proper computer using DaVinci Resolve or other softwares with similar color tools, then the footage off the E1 is going to offer you more flexibility. It can shoot in S-Log3 with 15+ stops of dynamic range, so you can really push your colors to achieve the look that you want. The A7C only limits you to 8-bit 420, so if you push too hard, you could see banding in your footage. Now, after hearing all that, you might be thinking, well, I don't want to color grade, I just want to make cinematic movies for fun. Well then, the E1 has a cinematic vlog feature that mimics the look of film. It automatically sets the frame rate to 24 frames per second, which is movie standard, and overlays black bars into your footage. They have several cinematic looks and moods that can alter the tone of the images, and they actually look really decent. You don't have to do any color grading. Moving on, long form videos. If you're doing any sort of long 4K video recordings like wedding ceremonies, concerts, or video podcasts that goes over an hour and 30 minutes long, then I would actually urge you to get an A7 IV, FX3, or even the budget FX30. The A7 IV has a body design that has better heat dissipation, and the FX series have a built-in fan that keeps it cool for long shoots. With any Sony cameras, make sure to go into your settings and find auto power temperature and set it to high if you plan on doing any long video recordings. With that said, between the a7C and the E1, the a7C has a slight advantage. It recorded on a 64GB SD card twice over with no heat warning, totaling 2 hours and 26 minutes of 4K recording. On the E1, it got through one whole 64GB card no problem, but about 14 minutes into its second run, the heat signal popped up. After 33 minutes into the second run, the camera turned itself off with a message saying it needs to cool, totaling about an hour and 50 minutes of 4K recording. And I would say that's not bad. I've been out filming all day with it, 9-hour day, doing a mixture of intermittent 4K 60p video recording and photography. Heat warning never popped up for me and the camera never shut itself off. Again, if you're doing long form video recording, the a7C does perform better in this department. Moving on to autofocus. I will begin to say both are excellent. It's only when you get to the ultra specifics that the E1 does have that edge. The a7C has human and animal focus recognition, but animal eye autofocus only works in photo mode. Human face and eye autofocus work in both photo and video mode. The E1 on the other hand has a variety of subject recognition. Humans, animals, birds, insects, cars, trains, and planes, and it works in both photo and video. With humans and pets, the E1 has AI pose estimation that allows it to guess quite accurately where the eyes are, even when it's obstructed or when the subject is faced away from the camera. In my opinion, the a7C's autofocus is more than enough. Slight overkill on the E1, but if you can take advantage of the different subject focus varieties, it can come in pretty clutch. Stabilization. Both cameras have in-body image stabilization, which is great, helps to provide more stable results, but the E1 has active and dynamic active stabilization. The latter offering even more stable results, but in exchange, it crops into your footage a lot more. Here are some side-by-sides with standard, active, and dynamic active stabilization. And standard is roughly what you would get on the a7C. With that said, the dynamic active stabilization doesn't quite replace a gimbal stabilizer, and since it crops a lot, it works best with ultra-wide angle lenses. Pairing a gimbal with either setups would be a great choice for video. Price versus the value you're getting. It's $1,800 for the a7C and $2,200 for the ZV-E1. The a7C, being nearly 3 years old now, is still a very capable camera, especially again if you lean more towards photography. But even for video work, it's more than enough, as we've discussed earlier. However, I would wait for a sale. Maybe $1,600 for brand new, $1,400 for a slightly used unit. While it doesn't have the same ease of use as the E1, with the price you save, that could be the time and energy to learn some basic camera settings, which will carry over with any camera system you use. Plus, you will have some extra money in your pocket for one additional lens. The E1 on the other hand, with its price tag, it's gonna be expensive for most beginners. However, for pros, it's actually a very good deal considering it's using one of the best low light sensor from a $3,500 camera, and it has the best autofocus system from a $3,800 camera. It's no slouch in terms of video, performing as good as their higher end video camera models in almost all aspects. So in that regards, it's kind of a steal. But what makes it stand out in my opinion is the ease of use for beginners, not only for video, but also for photos. So I'd say overall, get the E1 if you have the wallet for it, a7C if you can cop a whopping deal. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video and want to support the channel, you can say so via a super thanks, or simply stick around and listen to what my sponsor Squarespace has to say. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform to create beautiful websites. You don't need any coding knowledge whatsoever. Simply just choose from their many easy-to-use templates. Perfect for people like us who want to focus on our travels and make YouTube videos for you guys, but still want a presentable website for brands that are looking to work with us. Whether you're building your own photography portfolio, an e-commerce store, or even a landing page for your business, design it with Squarespace. Get a 14-day trial with my link below and try it for yourself. When you're ready to launch, you can save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain with my code JasonVong. Thanks for listening and supporting the channel, and we'll catch catch you guys in our next Japan adventure. Peace. Let's go. Well, hello there, hybrid shooters. You know, on this channel, we do a lot of camera-related reviews, right? Producing countless photo and video tutorials on top of that. And to get these amazing and unique samples, you know we do a lot of traveling. Lots of traveling. But what you don't know is the pain and suffering that goes on during those travels. Well, that is about to change. So join us as we battle against the crowds, the clouds, and the cows in our brand new photography mini-series, Travel Gone Vong.
Travel Gone Vong.
Jason's breaking down. Oh no.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.